indigenous knowledge and stuff was coming from Mexico area, from Aztec, both on my maternal grandmother's side as well as on my father's side. But I knew much more about the maternal side of my family. And so a lot of it came from that. And not too long ago, with my death of my mother, I always thought I was Osage as well. And then I learned that I'm not Osage, even though growing up, we went to Osage several times a year, and I learned from my uncle, aunts, I mean, we called them that. But then I later learned that no, that my grandmother's cousin married an Osage, and they felt sorry for my grandmother, who the neighborhood made fun of because they thought she was a little crazy because of the ceremonies and the things she would do. So I grew up learning all different things about our animal relations, all sorts of things, our plant relations, our water relations, everything is a relative. However, what I wanted to say that I'm exploring now, so I won't be able to speak very much in depth about it on this interview or this conversation, is that when I did my 23andMe, the DNA study, it turned out that I am 50% indigenous, which didn't surprise me. But what they found is not only Aztec or Mayan, they can't prove exactly, but the stories would suggest it is Aztec, but it's in that same area. But what's significant, it wasn't overwhelmingly that I'm actually also part of the indigenous tribe in the desert region of what is the US in the Southwest. And a significant percent is from the Amazon area, the rainforest in South America. And why I say that's so interesting to me is because I've worked with indigenous people all my life, friends, and then with my work. But for the last 13 years, I have been drawn to the Amazon, have been leading groups there, and just felt so at home with not only the people, but the animals. And I got named very quickly. Mukasawa is my name in the Amazon and the sacred headwaters, which means bird of the region. And this particular bird, it's not called a mockingbird, but it can speak to all the different birds. And when they met me, they said, oh, you're a Mukasawa. You speak all these different places. And that began me understanding some things that I think were deeper in my ancestry that I didn't aware of. And it makes me smile about it and happy for other people, because the reality, we're connected in all these ways, right? We're in very definitely.
Through science, we are now trying to re-establish or to rehabilitate the fact that we can communicate with animals, that there are bounds between us and pets, for example. You mentioned pets as well. People that own a pet, 99% of them say they relate to them, they feel a bond, and they can understand, they can feel their feelings and these kind of things. But of course, it's very funny that a kind of a thing we apparently had is being lost some way in parts of the world, and now we're trying to re-establish that through scientific proof. So proving something that maybe people like you and others you know already know. Well, they don't need to prove that, they already know that there is a kind of a bond between us and the surrounding animals and nature. So how do you relate to that?
Well, I think that that's why this work, what you're doing, is so important, because as long as many mainstream have the notion of a worldview where we're all separate, that's the thing that in my dreams and my hope is that this is shifting such major time to understand, no, we're all intimately interconnected and related. And so at this point, with what's going on with this little virus, is causing people to understand the need for connection, to finally really get, something could happen halfway around the world and impacts me.
In my opinion, I think looking to sustainable future, better world, trying to minimize suffering, I really think that respect for nature and the animals surrounding us is one of the key things. And you're also discussing that in your childhood, there was a kind of a connection, and I think many of us experience that when we are young. Some of that, the lucky ones, probably are experience that for the rest of their lives, but also many people lose that in one way or the other, be it through their environment or their societies or whatever. How you feel that, if it's more important to raise the young people and hopefully then future times will be more respectful towards nature, or also trying to change attitudes of the people that are not that much caring for nature, if that is possible at all, or probably we need to do both. So I'm very curious to learn how, from your experience.
Both. No, I know what you're saying. So even during this time, I'm at times go, I mean, we're going to see nature. I have this bear that's been visiting me, this little yearling bear, and ANNELOES knows about that. I've showed her pictures of it in the last month. And but everywhere we're seeing mountain lions I live in the mountains, so mountain lions will show up. You know, if you see one every 5 years, you're lucky. I see usually one a year. And the bears, the birds, everything that we're seeing, because we can see without our busyness and such a heavy footprint, that all these relations are coming forward in a much more plentiful way. I believe that it is about, we obviously, as Indigenous person, we always think 7 generations out. So anything I do, is it going to benefit 7 generations out? If not, then I should pause. So yes, obviously the young people, and I feel like they are coming in a different way, and connecting more to what's happening, understanding the earth is not a resource to use and tear up and all of that. They have that understanding, but I think it's a both. We need to. It comes from a worldview. It is about the hoop of life, which includes the animals and the plants and the two-leggeds. Is that we are all sacred. We're far more than just the vessels that we are, whether we're a bird or a bear or whatever, or a human being. And to do anything other than treat the whole, all of that as sacred, then causes part of the suffering and part of the separation. And at the same time, just because we all are sacred, but hold that to be true, doesn't mean we always operate in a sacred way.
But Indigenous people also killed animals to eat them, right? And then people were often trying to make that kind of argument, almost as if to undermine. And then, so I'd love rather that people hear it from, you know, from your wisdom. How do they see the rule of taking a life, also from a hunter-gatherer's perspective?
And of course, that's one of the big things used right in the modern sense. Find one little thing that seems out of sync so we can throw the whole thing out. However, what I do know, and again, early as growing up, because I was taught how to hunt when I was a little girl. We would go and hunt we were quite economically very poor. And we would go hunting, and it was really hard for me to shoot my first rabbit. But before we did that, before we even went out, we would talk about what we needed for food, how we would keep it so there would be no waste. So we made sure what there was in the freezer, what space we had. So already the mindset was only taking what we need to eat. And then when we go, we'd also get silent and we would say a prayer. And the prayer sometimes had words, but sometimes prayer was just going inside and giving both thanks and asking forgiveness. Both were right together. So thank you for being able to provide food for us. Hopefully we'll have a good day, so we'll be able to shoot some rabbits. But also forgiveness that we're taking a relative's life. But know that we will do our part in caring. So there's not like, it's just, I'm going to keep killing and taking, but rather honoring that there is this web of life.